Well, good afternoon and a warm welcome once again to Trinity Cathedral as we resume a new season of the Brownbag concerts. And some of you who were here in the concluding weeks of the spring may remember we had a remarkable run of beautiful Wednesdays in April and May, and we've continued that theme at least for this first Wednesday, so we're really grateful for that, and we're equally grateful for your being here, and we hope you picked up a brochure with the upcoming menu. We'll continue our pattern of every 2 weeks. So 2 weeks from today, on the 18th of October, we welcome back once again Nathan Carteret. And Nathan's a former Clevelander and lived here, went to school here, lives in Pittsburgh now, and performs really all over the place. A fabulous pianist. And he has a big-time program for us 2 weeks from today, Rachmaninoff and Scriabin. So some really terrific stuff. I would recommend it highly. And then the 1st of November, All Saints' Day, as it happens, we welcome James Kibbe, the very wonderful, personally and musically, professor of organ emeritus at the University of Michigan, just a terrific player. And he's going to play a program that involves both organs, the Flentrop and the Aeolian Skinner / Muller up in front. And then in the middle of November, the Ides of November, 15th, we welcome a new group to the Brownbag concerts, the Somerset Trio. And this is at Danna Sundet's instigation here. Danna is the English horn player. It's an unusual trio, as you can perhaps see, English horn, French horn, and piano. I have to say, I don't believe I've ever heard a trio of that instrumentation, but they've delved into the works written for that combination, and lo and behold, there's some wonderful things, including a trio by the composer you're about to hear as the leadoff hitter on today's program, Jan Koetsier, who is a Dutch composer, and you can see his dates. He lived to be 95 years old, from early 1900s, and just died in 2006. Dutch by birth, but lived most of his life in Bavaria, in the south of Germany, where he was very active as a conductor and as a teacher. He taught conducting for years at the Hochschule, the main music school for music in Munich there. So south of Germany is where he spent much of his active life, but wrote really beautiful and truly unique chamber music, and I've always known his name, at least for many years, because of this fabulous little partita for organ and English horn. And you can see today's theme is some of the rich repertoire for organ with another solo instrument. And so Danna is sort of taking the lion's share of this, playing both oboe and English horn today. So we're going to lead off with the Koetsier Partita, 5 short movements, the last of which sets the famous old chorale, How Brightly Shines the Morning Star, in the most beautiful and memorable way. So please welcome Danna Sundet. So we switch styles and instruments in a really quite big way here. A Boléro for organ and drum, percussion. And we've got Dylan Moffitt on hand, who's a magnificent percussionist, rock-solid sense of rhythm, which is what this piece is all about. Boléro, of course, I suspect you all know Ravel's Boléro. It's a standard musical form, repetition of this basic rhythmic unit, and everything evolves from that. So this piece was originally an improvisation. Pierre Cochereau, great French organist through a lot of the 20th century, and for the last 30-plus years of his life was the organist at Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris, also taught in Paris and in Lyon and a number of cities in France, but was renowned as an improviser. So he recorded a lot of improvisations at the organ, and so happened that one day, he, for whatever circumstance, he decided to improvise a Boléro with a drummer, and it was transcribed. That improvisation was put into notation and published, and that's what we're about to have today. So it's much like Ravel, it's a big arch form. It starts off very quietly, builds and builds and builds and builds to quite a big, powerful climax, and then takes equally much time dying down. But riveting in just the way that these kind of rhythmic things can often be. So it's big fun for us. I hope it will be likewise for you. You too. A remarkable sort of a musical journey there, isn't it? Even more remarkable if you had been there when Cochereau was improvising that on the spot. But pretty gripping, I find, nonetheless. We continue sort of the French theme, and we come to our side of the Atlantic. Though French-Canadian composer, a really wonderful French-Canadian composer who died just a little over a month ago, far too early, at the age of just 62 years old, Laurin, who was a wonderful person, very gifted musician, she was an organist herself, amongst other things, wrote a lot of organ music, wrote a lot of choral music, chamber music, but we're fortunate in that she wrote a nice little series of pieces over the years for organ with another solo instrument. So when I heard of her passing in the middle of August, I thought, okay, for this organ and instruments program, we need to do one of her pieces for sure. And so Danna has very kindly learned on short notice, actually we both have learned on somewhat short notice, this introduction and Allegro for organ and oboe. So the introduction is a sort of a serioso theme, and then the Allegro is pure French sort of bubbles and champagne. And these two ideas play back and forth throughout the course of this about 7-minute piece. So at this midpoint in the program, we're going to pass the baskets, and Pam will move furniture just a teeny bit to make room for cello in that space there. So we are very grateful, as always, for your support, both in terms of presence and in terms of anything that you can put in the basket as it comes around. Those of you who might be watching online can donate via PayPal, and you'll see, I think, a link come up on the screen very soon. Or you can just do it the old-fashioned way and send a check drawn to Music and Art at Trinity Cathedral and send it to Trinity Cathedral, 2230 Euclid Avenue, Cleveland, Ohio, 44115. And in any case, again, our heartfelt thanks. We now change, as you can see, to a piece for organ and cello. And this is by an American composer. The next two pieces are both by American composers. Craig Phillips, a composer of our time, and Craig went to school at Eastman School of Music up in Rochester, not so far from here, but has spent most of his active musical life in the Los Angeles area, where he's a fabulous church musician, leads one of the really great church music programs in Southern California, and is very busy as a composer, has been for decades now, has written fabulous choral music, fabulous organ music, and a lot of pieces, sort of like Rachel Laurin, a beautiful series of pieces for organ with other instruments. So this is obviously organ and cello. It's called A Song Without Words, and it's a very special piece, very deeply felt on the part of the composer, because he wrote it in memory of his brother, who died tragically at a far too young age. So you can imagine the special feelings connected with a piece of that nature. But it's an absolutely gorgeous piece, and it's Pam and I have played this piece a lot over the years, and it's a great pleasure to welcome her again to do so today. So please welcome Pam Kelly. Together. Special piece from a wonderful composer. The same could be said for this next piece, a set of variations on the well-known tune Amazing Grace by American composer Calvin Hampton. Calvin was born in western Pennsylvania, not so far from here. He went to school at Oberlin and then spent the majority of his adult life in New York City, where for quite a number of years he was the organist and music director at the parish of Calvary and St. George's in southern Manhattan near Stuyvesant Square. And this was in the 60s, 70s, and right up until his death in the early 80s. And Calvin was a person in many ways far ahead of his time, very creative, very original, and amongst his many remarkable accomplishments, he started during his years at Calvary and St. George's a series of Friday night midnight organ recitals, which you can imagine in the 70s, New York City, down around Greenwich Village, these were big, hot items. The church would be packed, all kinds of colorful characters at midnight to hear Calvin play everything from A to Z there, and which he did spectacularly. He was one of the first really, of course, in the early 80s, it was the beginning of the AIDS epidemic, and New York City was one of the centers of it. And Calvin was one of the first from our community of organists and church musicians to have AIDS and to eventually die from it. And he wrote this series of variations during that time. It's one of his last pieces, and he wrote a variation at a time extended over a year or two. And you could tell, with any serious illness, you have good days and bad days. You can tell very much what kind of day Calvin was having by the wide variety of these, the emotional and musical content in these variations on such a well-known hymn. But it's typical Calvin, inventive, warm, strange, a remarkable piece. And he wrote it for Tom Stacy, who was for many, many years the principal English horn of the Boston Symphony Orchestra, and just died a few months ago. I saw his obituary in the New York Times, and that I thought, for this program, we have to do this wonderful piece. And again, it's a piece Dana and I have played on and off, I don't know how many times over the years, a lot. So we still keep trying to get to know it. It's one of those pieces that affords endless challenge. You never feel like you're totally there with this piece, a tribute to a wonderful composer. So welcome Danna Sundet back once again. for. And this got to be so well known, he arranged it for orchestra, for organ with orchestra, and then an arrangement for solo organ, which the great American organist Lynnwood Farnam then doctored up and made a little more organ-friendly. So this is Dupré, a very inspired little short piece that's only about 5 minutes. The Cortege is a solemn procession, sometimes a funeral procession, but not necessarily. In this case, it's just a beautiful melody. And then the Litany is a little repeated theme, and eventually those things get put together, as you might guess.